The question on everyone's lips right now is, are we back, and is this the game we were all hoping for and expecting? After putting almost 30 hours into the game now, I feel I've got a fairly balanced head on me to answer both of these questions. In this video, I want to go into my experiences and address what I feel attempts to answer and address both questions. I think there are a lot of conflicting elements that will make answering the question, are we back, slightly difficult to do, but I'm going to try my best. I'll be going through the positives and negatives with my conclusion at the end. The stuff I mention in this review will be more of what I consider to be higher level things that affect the core elements of the game, either in a positive or negative light, rather than nitpicking little bugs or problems here and there. Before we get into all of that though, make sure you subscribed if you're enjoying this video, and a like would be greatly appreciated if you find value in what I'm doing here on this channel. Starting with the positives, and I do want to start by giving plaudits to a relatively successful launch Battlefield had this year. Comparing it to 2042's launch, it was night and day. I said relatively successful because yes, I was one of those players that booked the day off work to make sure I was ready for the 4 PM launch time, only to find for around 8 hours I couldn't play because the EA app had an outage. This cut me pretty deep at the time, and I was pretty angry about the whole thing. So my first stream was me getting visibly angrier and angrier about the situation, and I ended up having to cut it short. However, what was important for DICE was to fix it very quickly, which segues me into what I find to be reasonably positive or very positive signs about the game moving forward. And that is the comms and showing like they genuinely care about this game and the customers. What EA did to compensate players like me was not only fix it relatively quickly, but was to give XP tokens, which on balance don't really mean an awful lot. However, reading further on the tweet they did, they said they are going to give the next or the first battle pass free of charge to people that were affected by this outage. And going one stage further, people with the Phantom Edition, they're giving 2 seasons worth of battle passes for free. And when you weigh this up, they're actually losing around £30 of revenue at least for giving 2 battle passes away. So this was a really nice surprise that made me feel content, not necessarily happy or sad, just content. And it means for at least the next 6 months I probably don't need to spend any extra money on the game or the cosmetic stuff. This was just on launch, but since then they appear to be communicating really well via their Battlefield comms page on X, acknowledging when there were problems, and they've already started addressing some bugs and adjusting things, but keeping us all in the loop. In general, I think that they are off to a good start with this, and they're already showing us that they have intent to implement changes and listen to the community. And not only this, but they are implementing changes quickly and not just waiting for a seasonal patch to fix stuff. On the actual game itself, one thing that's immediately obvious is the choice of guns and weaponry that's available at launch. Albeit, you have to spend quite a bit of time unlocking these things, but overall, I'm really pleased to see such a variety of weaponry available, which from memory wasn't the case in Battlefield 2042. The modes available at launch have a good diversity to them, and yes, you have the traditional conquest and breakthrough modes, but that's supplemented really well with their new escalation mode, which is quite fun. But they also have official smaller map experiences such as Team Deathmatch, Domination and King of the Hill. I really like the variety of experiences available that actually function at launch, which keeps the game from getting old quite quickly. In-game, what's immediately obvious as well is the attention to detail on every map. They all look incredible and make for a really cinematic feel when you're playing. You take Battlefield 2042 for example, that didn't really have any atmosphere or tone, well this certainly does. You really get a feeling that you're in a war-torn environment full of tension and atmosphere. Whether that be through the explosions and graphical effects or the sound design, it really does make you feel fully immersed. The gameplay feels really responsive and sharp from a server point of view. There aren't too many occasions where I feel like the servers aren't registering shots and all the rest of it, and lag feels to a minimum too. Compare that with Call of Duty for example, and I'm yet to experience any serious server-side issues when playing, which is really nice to see. I can only speak from PC from this point of view, but I've been really impressed by performance from day one. In general, it feels like a really well optimised game, and I'm getting really decent frame rates. DLSS on the other hand performs outstandingly well and appears to offer extra frames basically without any drawbacks from what I can see, so limited latency for example. All I'll say on this matter is well done DICE, as this has certainly added to my overall satisfaction of this game right out the box at launch. There are probably loads more positives to this game, but in general, What I've just mentioned is some of the key things that have really impressed me so far. But that doesn't mean this game is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Coming on to what are probably seen as negatives or are negatives. But before I get into that, I do want to say I'm still really enjoying the game, but for me to stick around long term, I see these issues as stuff that needs to be addressed and quickly. I strongly feel that a lot of what I'm about to mention are fixable, and the core elements of the game are there, and there's no reason why over time these things can't be addressed. Now, the first thing I want to get into is the lighting. And yes, it's been driving me crazy since minute one. When you're inside a building and looking outside, all you see is white and washed out colours. You can't see enemies or anything else for that matter. This is what I would consider on the cusp of actually game breaking. It's that frustrating to be killed by someone you can't even see that over a period of time of this happening, it will just make you want to quit the game. They have to address this quickly. Now, I have tried turning HDR on, which makes a slight difference, but even with it turned on, there isn't what I would class as a night and day difference, but it does make it slightly better, but it still needs fixing either way. And this leads me on to the visibility in general. It is just poor. You cannot see anything. It's so difficult to see enemies because they blend in, and at any sort of distance you need a microscope to see them. They are that small. Put this on top of the smoke, the rubble, explosions and buildings falling down, means that even if you were trying to identify enemy targets, there are so many other things either obscuring your vision or being so distracting that you're just dead half the time without you even knowing where from. I do get that they've tried to create a game that's cinematic, but I feel like the cinematic elements of the game at this point are too overarching on the actual playability. For the campaign, that's fine, but when you're talking about a PvP experience, I just feel it's slightly too much. I'm finding I need to concentrate far too much to be half successful in the game because of the character models that blend in and smoke, dust and rubble in my face all the time. Battlefield 2042 was very bland, which means you could at least see the enemies, but this game is the complete opposite. DICE have to figure out a way of striking a balance between the two somehow to make this game play better. On Gunplay and the dreaded Bloom. What has gone so wrong with this since the beta? I felt in the beta, the Gunplay and Bloom were in a perfectly balanced spot, but the launch patch seems to have reversed all those changes and made it worse. For those who don't know what Bloom is, it's in the description. It's like a flower blooming. The cone starts off tight at the bottom of the flower, and as you get further away from the stem, it all begins to open out. And this is what's happening far too much in Battlefield 6 right now with a lot of the guns. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And even tap firing some of them isn't really helping to reduce it. It mostly affects the ARs, but when everyone is using carbines over the ARs, you know there's a problem. There are a lot of inconsistencies I've noticed with the time to kill and time to death that I can't quite put my finger on, whether it's the Bloom or server side issues, but a lot of the gunfights feel like they just have an element of randomness to them, which I don't like at all. All I can say on this is just put it back to how it was in the beta, and I'll be perfectly happy. Going on to the menu design, well, they're just rubbish. This was feedback they had since the beta, but the launch version appears to be exactly the same, so they've made no changes. And it's not just the launch page of the game that I'm talking about either. When you have to take 10 minutes to sit there on a weapon page trying to find out what level your gun is even at, you know that the whole UI basically just needs rebuilding from the ground up again. I hate to say it, but they need to make it more like the menus that Call of Duty have, and COD menus are actually pretty good and well thought out. With the map design, I do like a lot of them, with Siege of Cairo being one of my favourites, but the play space they've given us in a lot of the modes just makes you feel like they're forcing the action to be quicker and fast paced by limiting that play space. Battlefield games have always been and had designs that give you a sense of scale, and you need to travel a bit to get to the action. Again, something that can be fixed quite easily by redesigning spawn points and objectives, but also opening up other areas of the play space to relieve some of the pressure on points that currently exists. And another thing that you could say is unnatural is the class system. Again, in the beta, I was really happy with the open classes system and felt there was a reason to still use each individual class depending on your playstyle. But now they have altered key parts of these that seemingly make players basically pick one class only because of that key piece of equipment. And yes, I'm talking about the support class with healing and smoke grenades. Why have they taken smoke grenades off every class other than the support class? In this game, you need smoke grenades to move, and taking them off every other class is such a terrible idea. And someone told me, why is it the assault stim does not heal you? And on top of that, Stoddy found recently that snipers aren't even accurate with any other class other than the recon class. So for example, if you're going to use a sniper on assault, even if your crosshairs are lined up with a headshot, let's say, there is a chance you will still miss that headshot. And it's only on the recon class that the bullet 100% of the time will go where you're aiming. I'm just scratching the surface on some of the bigger issues with this, but this stuff really does need sorting ASAP. Again, the beta was absolutely fine. What happened? So I think the question is, are we back? And is this the title we were all hoping for? The answer is probably a yes, but only if they put some work in to address some of these issues and feedback very quickly. It can't wait for the first or second season to do this, it has to be soon. I'm having loads of fun right now, and this really does feel like a proper Battlefield game, something that we've not had for so long. The issues mentioned, I will add, are only minor and can be fixed. It's not like they need to go back to the drawing board and redesign the whole game, which you could say is progress compared to some other previous titles they've launched. I think you would agree with me that this game has the potential beyond belief, and the core of this game is actually there. It just needs some tweaking to put into a good spot. This is in contrast to Battlefield 2042, where the core mechanics of the game were just broken from day one. The difference is Battlefield 6 has the base game here, and it just needs some refining. The thing that gives me loads of hope is that they did eventually make 2042 a half decent game for what it was, but Battlefield 6's budget is a lot bigger, and they are desperate to make it a success this time round. As long as they carry on the good work engaging with the community and showing the willingness to communicate and change stuff like they have so far, I really do think the sky is the limit for this game. And guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more content like this. Drop a like if you found value in what we're doing here on the channel, and finally, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you agree with everything I've just said, and what would you change? And plus, have I missed anything out on this review? See you in the next one.